Landscaping has structure and structures. And within the landscape, you have to know where things go, and how things are laid out. And it's based on the homeowner's preferences, what they're intending to do, how they're looking to entertain, and try to make the space cohesive. The rule of thumb in landscaping is form follows function. You have to have a point of something. So you can't just throw something in just because you think it looks nice. You have to make sure that the living spaces coincide with kitchen spaces or dining spaces, and they have to flow nicely, or you have to have separation in between the spaces in order to allow for structure in the landscape.
Sometimes the earth and the land dictates, and you have to let that be the rule as well. Because sometimes you'd like to have certain kind of plants in an area that it just won't work. So you have to definitely know what you're working with. Like Jeremy said, you can't just throw things together. They have to, if you want it to have this cohesiveness, which makes it flow, you have to take the vibe from the inside and keep that flowing to the outside.
Now, to use separation in spaces, you don't necessarily have to put up a privacy fence. You can use living items such as arborvitae, or, it all depend on if you're going to look for a complete block. You can use plants like serviceberry, which provide just a separation, but you can still see through them. It's not going to provide a complete privacy break for you. So those are things that you need to consider when developing spaces. How do you want to separate those spaces? You want to create separate rooms from space to space, and they all have to cohesively flow. And bringing in the outside and the inside out is all part of the dichotomy of what you're planning on doing. And each space is going to be determined by the homeowner's sets of rules, what they're looking for, and their lifestyles.
And I think every little area that you do, which we like to call stories, every story, you can do living things to separate your stories. You can use color to separate your stories. There's ways to separate things without, like Jeremy said, having to put up an actual wall.
Structures within the landscape, such as pergolas and arbors, they provide part of the structure of the landscape. A pergola will provide a ceiling base for you. Also, if you have like an arbor, it gives you a doorway, an entry point. So it gives you a point of beginning, and then you can do something that gives you a point ending.
And like floors too, you could use pavers to create a floor in one place. You could use living floors, which are like stepping stones with plants between them.
Raised planters, seat walls, all these elements provide structure and separation and lend themselves to purpose within the landscape.